Okay, so Samsung just announced a few new devices, including 2 new foldables, as well as a pair of wireless earbuds. And I was able to spend a little bit of time with these devices earlier last week, and I thought I'd do a kind of first impressions of them. I'm gonna start off with the Galaxy Fold 3. This is their flagship product. It's their flagship foldable. It's the flagship device in their whole Galaxy lineup. And this thing is nice. It's got an updated look. It's got a more modern vibe to it. It's got cleaner lines. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter. When you pick it up, the difference in weight is not super noticeable, but the difference in thickness compared to the Fold 2 is quite obvious. Now inside, we're looking at 3 relatively big changes this year. The first is the presence of an under-display camera. So this is a camera system that can become somewhat invisible. Secondly is the presence of S Pen support. And then lastly, it's now IPX8 water certified. So I'm gonna start with the camera because that's the coolest thing to me. That under-display camera is tech that we've seen before. This isn't the first phone in the world with it, but this is the first time we've seen it on a Galaxy device, and it's also the first time we've seen it done in this type of form factor. You're basically hiding the camera so that it's as invisible as possible for any kind of media consumption or any kind of use of that front display. Now, the way they do it, if you're unfamiliar with this tech, is that there's just a bunch of pixels above the camera and above the lens, and they can turn it on and off to hide the camera tech that's underneath. The thing is, it's imperfect. Now last year when the Axon 20 came out, this was the first commercially available phone that had the tech built into it, and you could see, if you looked for it, that there was kind of like visual artifacting at the top of the display where that camera was hidden. Now in the Fold 3, there's still a visual artifact in that area, right? If you know what you're looking for and you are looking in the right spot, you'll see it. It's fairly obvious, and it's more noticeable in very bright backgrounds. Like if it's a white background, it's more obvious. It's most obvious then. If it's a darker shade or a darker scene, it's tougher to see it. But if you're looking for it, you'll see it. Now, I was actually a little bit surprised to see that there wasn't much of an improvement in that implementation compared to this one from the past. The other thing to keep in mind is that in order to pull this off, in order for Samsung to have an under-display camera system, they've had to reduce the camera quality of that front-facing camera on that screen, right? I get it, like they're going for a look, but it's just surprising to me that that's what they had to do. And the other thing I was surprised at is the seam. Like ever since the original Galaxy Fold launched, the seam right down the middle was something that people were concerned about, right? How obvious is it? How annoying is it for the user? It doesn't matter to me personally. Like I've never once thought that the visual experience of a foldable phone was ruined by the presence of the seam. It's obvious, it's right in front of your face, but it just exists. That being said, I'm surprised that on a 3rd generation of foldable tech, it still has such an obvious seam. It seemingly has the same degree of seamage as the first one, but maybe that's just the tech. Okay, in terms of the S Pen, so this to me is a really nice addition. You can't use every S Pen that Samsung offers. They have the S Pen Pro, which is compatible with this one, but they also have a dedicated or new S Pen built specifically for the Fold devices. Now it also has this case that you can get that has a detachable kind of pen clip holder, which is kind of neat. And it's now water resistant, which to me is an incredible feat of technology. If you think about what is happening when you open and close this device, like this hinge has so many moving parts. Like last year on the Fold 2, they implemented some brushes to improve the dust resistance, but to make it water resistant to any degree, that's crazy to me. And it's cool because anyone who's ever considered a foldable device, and even in the future, if you ever look at this stuff, it's durability comes into your mind, right? Like how durable is a hinge like this? There's moving parts, and just having water resistance is really nice to see. So it also has Gorilla Glass Victus. It has a matte finish. It's got a stronger aluminum body, like the metal that they've used a little bit stronger than the previous generation. And the whole device is thinner and lighter, but the camera system remains relatively unchanged. Like maybe the software has been tweaked, but in terms of the camera hardware, from what I've seen, it's identical to the previous generation. So if camera image quality is hugely important to you, then you're going to be disappointed. But for people that want the bleeding edge in Galaxy tech with folding screens and under-display cameras, this is going to fit the ticket quite nicely. Now, the pricing is actually a little bit lower than it was in the past. It's now $1799 at the base model, which is, I don't know, $200 cheaper than it was last gen. It's still super expensive. Like an $1,800 phone is still an $1,800 phone, but it's more accessible than it was last year. Okay, moving on to the Flip 3. So this is a device that I think looks a lot cooler than the previous generation. The Flip and the Flip 5G, there was something about this device, like it just felt almost like a toy to me. It's not even about the shape, it's more the rounded nature and just like the dated kind of front look to it. this new one looks a lot better to me. Maybe it's the camera array, maybe it's the design lines, maybe it's the bigger screen, but whatever it is, it's just a lot nicer looking than the first generation one. Now, it's not any lighter than the previous generation, but it is nicer to hold in your hand. I'm not sure if it's from the change in the thickness of it or it's just the actual design element, but it is a nicer feeling device in your hand. Now the front screen is bigger and you have access to a few widgets, like you can have like Samsung Pay in there, there's obviously messages, but you can do more with that screen than you could with the previous generation. And again, it's IPX8 water resistant certified, just like the Fold 3. Now inside, the screen's been upgraded to 120 Hertz display, so it's a little bit faster and more fluid of a visual experience on the inside, but you still have a regular camera punch hole, not the under display tech that you see on the Fold 3. Now the pricing of it is a little bit better. It's now $1,000 of the base model, still super expensive, but it's just a more accessible product category than it has been in the past. So like $200 cheaper than the previous generation. It does only have 128 gigs of storage on that base model. I think last year it was like 256, but it's, I don't know, $1,000 for the people that are trying to get into this foldable tech world. They want to be kind of relatively early adopters still. I think that's somewhat reasonable. It's definitely better than $1,200 or $1,400 from a few years ago. All right, the last thing I want to talk about are the Galaxy Buds 2. These are $150, and I think these are very well priced for what you're getting. These have active noise cancellation. They have a lot of the tech that they've taken from the Pro lineup, and they've stuck them in here. I think that these will sell really well. They come in a few colors, and they get 5 hours of battery life with active noise cancellation on. I think that's very competitive, and they seem quite lightweight, which I personally like when it comes to my wireless earbuds, so I'll be testing those out in the future. But that's the Samsung lineup, the foldables and the wireless earbuds. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. I'll see you guys next time.